So good evening. This is Courtney Bird. I'm the vice chair, and I'm sitting in for Jamie, who's not here. And welcome to the December 4, 2024 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. I should note for the record that we have a full complement of members here except for Jamie. And I want to also our staff, Jen and Alyssa, Fallon, Mark, Lori, and Kristen. This open meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission is being conducted via Zoom and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online at www.fctv.org. Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation in this meeting. For those who want to view the meeting but do not want to participate, we suggest viewing on FCTV. Members of the public who want to make comments or ask questions during the meeting may join the meeting as Zoom attendees, which allows you to submit for the record written comments and questions via the chat function, and also to see and hear the meeting in real time. If you want to speak at the meeting, let us know via the chat function, and at the appropriate time, the chair will recognize you. When you're selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. Your audio and video must be enabled, and I have to emphasize that. It's easy to enable the audio, but remember that this is a meeting that is just as the same as if it were in person. And if it were in person, we'd be seeing your face as well as hearing your voice. So when you speak, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each. The link and instructions for joining the meeting are listed in the agenda posting and can be found at www.falmouthmad.gov conservation. FCTV will also be posting the information on how to access the Zoom meeting during the broadcast of this meeting. This meeting is being recorded, so please be aware that you, as a panelist, can be seen and heard unless you've muted your microphone and or shut off your camera. And that includes any open windows on your computer if you use the screen share function. So please act accordingly. Before turning to the first item on the agenda, I want to review some basic ground rules for the orderly conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please remember to unmute your microphone and turn on your video so you can both be seen and heard. And then, of course, speak clearly. When done, please remute yourself. Please do not speak unless recognized by the chair. If you, as a meeting attendee, want to ask a question or make a comment, please use the chat function. At each presentation, the chair will ask staff members for questions or comments. The chair will then ask for commissioner comments and questions. After the presentations of staff and commission discussion, the chair will ask the staff members to read any questions or comments typed into the Zoom chat function by members of the public. Following that, the chair will call for public comment. All votes for this remote meeting will be taken via roll call. I will call out the name of each member and ask you to repeat your last name before stating your vote. Before we start, I would like to make a note that tomorrow afternoon between 4 and 5, the Conservation Commission will be hosting kind of an open house informal gathering for people who are interested in potentially serving on the Conservation Commission down the road. And I think it's really important as a member of this wonderful community to consider giving back. The town gives you a lot, and that's why you chose to live here. And I hope that you realize that part of being a citizen of the town is to participate in the process. And this is a wonderful way to do it. We have protecting our environment is key. I can only say at one point, my family that lives in Canada came down here and they sat here in my backyard looking over the little Sippawisset Marsh, and they kept saying, what a wonderful, beautiful thing. Only if we had preserved things like that in my hometown. And so that can only happen with service from our citizens. And I hope if you're possibly considering this, that you will attend tomorrow's meeting. With that, we'll turn to the regular agenda. And first order of business. And before I do that, by the way, there are a number of hearings and RDAs that are going to be possibly continued. And so if you're here for one of these, you may want to decide to not continue on, although we will miss you. Under applicability, termination of applicability, Joe Hosford on Rice Street, Falmouth, Mass. For continuances under notice, Margaret Strakovich, 158 Westwood Road, Falmouth. Taylor May Carroll, trustee, 115 Childs River Road. Cindy Coates, trustee, 187 Penzance Road. Under continuances for an enforcement order, Patrick Burke, trustee, Church Street Trust, and also John Cook, trustee, 170 Church Street, also on an enforcement order. A notice, a request for determination for applicability has been withdrawn. That's David P. Kelly and Kelly E. Campbell, Millfield Street. I think I've covered them all. Oh, Douglas and Kristen Shearer, 30 Chappaquoit Road, will be withdrawn, or I'm sorry, continued. And I think I've covered all the bases. Quiston Harbor Preservation Trust is requesting to extend an order of conditions. That's been withdrawn. And so other than that, will be a regular business. So the first order of business is to vote minutes, and the first set of minutes to be voted upon is November 6, 2024. And I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and I'd move approval as written. Patton.
Okay, do we have a second?
Harlow Hawk, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Okay. Bird, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Harlow Hawk's eye.
Ron.
Driscoll abstain.
And Steve.
Patton, aye.
Did I miss anybody? Good. So the minutes from November 6th are adopted. The minutes for November 13, 2024. I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and I'd move approval. Patton.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November the 13th, 2024, as written. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
James? Maury?
Harlow Hawk's eye.
Ron?
Driscoll abstain.
Okay, Steve?
Patton, aye.
The minutes are, the motion is carried with one abstention. Moving on, the next thing is requests for determination of applicability. Under a request for determination of applicability, an RDA, the applicant is asking the Conservation Commission to decide if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to the proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and or the bylaw do not apply and therefore it can proceed. A positive determination is that the provisions of the act and or the bylaw do apply. Therefore, the applicant will have to submit a notice of intent for the project if he or she wants to go forward. In simplest terms, a no means yes. So first we have, the first one is continued. Do I need a vote on this one?
Courtney, you need a vote on all continuances.
Yeah, okay. So we have Joe Hosford, 8 Rice Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct 2 dormers. He's asked for a continuance. So Betsy, I'm sorry, Jen, do you want,
Alyssa,
Alyssa?
Yes, the
I will get
applicant
this
has,
straight.
that's okay. The applicant has requested a continuance until January 22nd.
Do I hear a motion?
Patton, so moved.
Betsy, you were
Driscoll
muted.
second.
Gladfelter so moved. Steve
Okay.
seconded it.
Oh, yeah, all right. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
I recuse myself.
okay, Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
Motion carried with 1 abstention. Next, we have a request for a continuance on a notice of intent. Margaret Strakosh, trustee, Strakosh Family Trust, Strakosh Family 2014 irrevocable trust, 158 Westwood Road, Falmouth, Mass. And permission to raise an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with attached garage, deck and porch, install a pool with a patio and retaining wall, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, repair part of damaged revetment, and install mitigation and restoration plantings. Alyssa?
that's going to be me, Courtney.
Okay.
The applicant
Well,
has requested a continuance until December 11th.
Okay, it's been requested to continue this till December 11th. Any questions or comments?
Gladfelter so moved.
Driscoll, aye. Driscoll, second.
Okay, it's motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
motion carried. Okay, next, Taylor Mary Carroll, trustee, 115 Charles River Trust Road, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to license, maintain, and construct an extension on an existing licensed walkway and relocate one existing dolphin file. Jennifer,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until December 11th.
so are there any questions or comments from the board?
Gladfelter so moved.
Driscoll, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 11 December. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, eye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
motion carried. Next, Cindy Coates, this is the next continuance request. Cindy Coates, trustee, 187 Penzance Road, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to install restoration and mitigation plantings in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4608. Renovate an existing bathhouse, including roof alterations, relocate mitigation plantings, remove several dead and diseased trees, and maintain an existing path. Jennifer,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's requesting a continuance until December 18th.
okay. Is this a
What?
second continuance, by the way?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, Courtney.
Okay. Betsy,
Gladfelter,
You're making a motion to continue.
Making a motion to continue to December
second.
18th.
All right, and then we have a
Driscoll
second. Was that Ron? Did you second that?
Ron
Yeah, Driscoll
seconded.
second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to continue this until the 18th of December. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Court is Bird eye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
The motion is carried. Next, request for continuance under enforcement order. Patrick Burke, trustee, Church Street Trust, 158 Church Street, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation within the buffer to a coastal bank. Jennifer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is being continued until January
8th.
8th. Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
Gladfelter, so moved.
Okay,
Driscoll second.
we have a motion and a second. All right, I'll call for the vote. And Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. Next, we have another request for a continuance under an enforcement order. John Cook, trustee, John C. Cook, 2009 trust, 170 Church Street, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation within the buffer to a coastal bank. Jennifer? Assume
Yes,
this is,
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until January 8th.
okay. Any questions or discussion? Entertain a motion.
Gladfelter, so moved.
Driscoll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
And Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
We have all positive votes. It's carried. Moving on to the next thing. We have the next, let me see if there are any other requests. Yes, Douglas H. and Kristen Shearer, 30 Chappaquoit Road, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to install mitigation plantings according to Mass DEP 253874. Jennifer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is being continued until January
8th.
8th. Thank you. Ms.
January 8th, okay. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Gladfelter, so moved.
A
Driscoll
second.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue Shearer until the 8th of January. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Court is Bird is aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks Eye.
And Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
Unanimous vote and it's carried. Let me see, I don't think we have any other continuances that I know of, just looking through. Nope. All right, so we go on to request for determination of applicability, which I've already read what that's all about. And the first one is David P. and Kathy E. Campbell, 5 Millfield Street, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to install mitigation and restoration plantings in accordance with Mass DEP 25-4595. Jen?
That's going to be Alyssa.
Huh? They want
This
to,
application has been withdrawn.
it has been withdrawn. Jen, do you want to give an explanation on this? Because it applies to a couple of other things that's relevant for us to know.
Yes, the application was to restore the mitigation plantings in accordance with that DEP number, which had expired. But on November 20th, the governor signed an economic development bill that included a 2-year extension. It was a Permit Extension Act for all permits issued or in effect between January of 2023 and January of 2025. So although this permit expired several months ago, it now has new life and now is afforded a 2-year extension by law.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for the explanation. Because this will have bearing on an extension later on. So, moving on, the first request for determination is Chappaquoit Associates, 0 Chappaquoit Road, map and parcel number 24024-06-008-000, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to maintain a guard shack on Chappaquoit Road. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
we have a motion.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Pelter second.
Driscoll,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Okay, motion carried. Next, Island Communicorp, 75 Falmouth Heights Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair an existing bulkhead. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Gladfelter second.
well, you have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. Next. Turgut Kelson. 67 Lakeshore Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair a retaining wall and construct a protective barrier around an existing septic pumping chamber. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Harlow Hawks so moved.
Driscoll, second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Pelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Motion carried, accepted staff's recommendation. Next, William and Elizabeth Scannell, 314 Quistit Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, permission to replace a water main and install a gas main. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Harlow Hawks so moved.
Driscoll, second.
all right, a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. Moving on. Next, we have Nikita Mar LLC, 119 Green Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass, permission to license and repair an existing dock. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed. We are also recommending a +1 for reconstruction of the deck.
all right, so you've separated this out.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Gladfelter second.
Okay, and is there any, so it's moved and been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Pelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. Next. The next one, I'm sorry, Fishmonger Cafe, Inc., 56 Water Street, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to repair existing piles and foundation. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Carlo Hawks, so moved.
Driscoll second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Do we have any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Jamie? I'm sorry, Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. Next, the next one, Douglas H. and Kristen Shearer, 30 Chappaquay Road, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to install mitigation plantings in accordance with Mass DEP number 253874 has been previously continued until the 8th of January. Moving on, Scott and Michelle Posner, 56 Mariners Lane, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to construct an addition. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Carlo Hawks, so moved.
Driscoll second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. Next, Constitution Properties LLC, care of Steve Bowen, 8 Shallow Pond Lane, Falmouth, for permission to install a new Title V compliant sewage disposal system and a new drinking water well. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Carlo Hawks.
Driscoll second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. Next, continued request for determination for applicability. Joe Hosford, 8 Rice Street, Falmouth, Mass. has been continued till the 22nd of January. Now we turn to notices of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So first up, Annalisa and Michael Michelli, 16 Whittemore Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. for permission to reconstruct and enlarge the front porch, conducts invasive species removal and restoration, and install after-the-fact mitigation plantings. Jennifer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Tim Santos of Merrill Engineering as a panelist to present his project.
Thank you. Welcome, Tim.
Good evening. First and foremost, I'd like to say, Mr. Bird, you're doing a great job tonight as chair.
Boy, is he buttering me up. Okay.
Okay, for the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, and with your permission, I will share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yep, beautiful.
All right, so the property is located at 6 Whitmore Ave. The resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are a bordering vegetated wetland to the north, and the entire property is located in land subject to coastal storm flowage. Existing property is developed with an existing single-family home, paved driveway, porches, a shed, fire pit, lawn, and landscaped areas. We are here tonight looking for your approval to remove the existing brick porch out front and construct a new porch as shown on the plan. We are also looking for after the fact approvals for the fire pit to the northwest side of the house that was constructed in the lawn area. It's partially within the FWR A zone to the BBW and FWR B zone, as well as the shed that was constructed to the northeast side of the house that was in a former landscaped area that's partially within the A and B. We are proposing mitigation plantings, 710 square feet. We have provided redevelopment calcs that show the increase in the A for the shed and patio, the increase in the B, the 3-to-1, the 2-to-1 combined at 703 square feet. We're proposing 710 square feet in an area that was lawn and landscape beds. We feel that these two structures could have been permitted through the board the correct way with mitigation plantings. So we're hoping that you'll allow them to remain. The patio is 45 feet off of the wetland. The closest point of the primary structure is 45 feet, so it's no closer. The existing shed is closer by about 6 feet at 39 feet, but we're hoping the board will allow it to remain in its current location as it was constructed within lawn and landscaped areas, and we are proposing 3-to-1 and 2-to-1 restoration for the increase of this footprint. The applicant also started some invasive species removal. If you've been out to the site and looked to the rear of the property to the north adjacent to the wetland, they have started to remove some of the invasives, didn't realize they needed the permit. We were notified by staff when we originally filed an RDA for the porch out front that we needed to withdraw that RDA, file a notice, and deal with the two structures that were constructed as well as the invasive species removal that took place. So the applicant is aware that he needs permission for anything on this lot now because it's in the flood zone as well as the buffer zone to the BVW to the north. We are proposing to revegetate this area with native shrubs and trees adjacent to the stumps that are shown on the plan that were located in the field. I believe the staff report had a few comments. We have no problems with the stumps being removed. They requested the name of the contractor that would be performing the work. I forwarded that over this afternoon and also suggested that a site meeting take place prior to any construction so that the contractor and staff can review any of the invasive removal and the work in this area, which is a normal condition. And staff also noted that there might be a need for additional trees back in this area. What we did was any stump that was located, we proposed a tree for replacement. If staff or the commission feels that additional trees are needed in this northern area, then I'd be more than happy to revise the plan and add those trees as it could be conditioned in the order. So if the board has any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to address them, and I'll stop sharing.
Okay, staff comments. Jennifer,
Mr. Chairman, yes, the shed is moving closer, and although the board is currently discussing that, it currently does not meet your regulations because it's moving forward. So the board will need to determine whether you want that shed relocated or if you allow it to remain where it is. We do think more trees are necessary on site, and we can condition that. If the board feels the same. And I think that's all we got. The other questions were answered. Thank you.
okay. Listen. Do you have anything to add?
Just a couple comments. Tim, I'm just looking through my packet. Did you send over BVW data sheets? I know originally it was an RDA, so maybe they weren't part of your packet.
I thought they were there. If they're not there, I can get them for you.
Okay,
Thank
great,
you.
thank you. And Tim, who did you say was doing the invasive work? I'm sorry, I didn't read the email yet.
It's called
New England Tree and Landscaping.
New England Tree and Landscaping.
Okay, and will it be mechanical work or
I
herbicides?
believe they would be using, at this point, it's pretty much kind of been, everything's been removed out of there, so it might be some minor mechanical work. I don't think it would be anything major.
Okay, and the
Probably
reason
just
I
to
just
remove the stumps mostly.
okay, and the reason I asked about just reaching all the way to the edge of the wetland was it was just so close the way it was drawn on the plan, but I realize even the wetland might have invasives in it, so you could just be creeping in and it would never stop. And then, yes, we definitely were hoping to see a couple more trees. I mean, looking at the aerials and the canopies, it looks like there were more than 6 out, but maybe a couple more would satisfy the commission. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go to commissioner comments. Steve,
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And may I compliment you on your introductory to this evening's meeting. The only question I have and will remain is the issue of the shed. At this particular location, I'm not overly concerned, but we all know what can happen. Anyway, other than that, I have no comments. Thank you.
okay. Ron, do you have anything?
Yeah, on we've been talking about fire pits. This looks like it's about 100, Tim, it's about 145 square feet or something like that, the fire pit and the patio and the chairs.
It
Sound
might be,
about right?
yeah, correct.
I mean, it's almost like a perfect example of what we're talking about
Right.
on other meetings. So I just want to make that comment. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Maury, do you have anything?
I'm just gonna echo Steve's comment on the shed. Otherwise, the patio with the mitigation would be appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Maury. Kevin,
Ditto previous comments. Thank you.
and Betsy.
Tim, unsurprisingly, I concur with having more trees there. And I'm just wondering if, I don't know what the timing sequence is, but we should require the mitigation planting to go in before the construction.
Yeah.
I'm-
Okay,
I'm
is
just
that
throwing that out there. We could discuss it in deliberation
right?
if you want.
Okay, so that you're all set?
That's it. Thanks.
Okay, and the only, what do we know about the invasives that had to be removed? What were they, Tim?
It's listed on the plan. I was told that it was some privet, honeysuckle, Japanese knotweed, rosa multifloral, English ivy, the kind of the typical invasives that you might see when some
And that-
non-engine
is-
comes in
is that-
with
Is that
restoration.
what caused all the trees to have to be taken down?
I don't have that answer for you. I'm just trying to resolve and restore.
So doesn't it make sense before on any restoration that you make sure that all of the roots and stuff that are in those that were the causes of those invasives are removed, and so you're not fighting that once you start replanting.
Yeah, so he has hired the landscape contractor, so when the landscape contractor comes in, they'll make sure all the invasives are gone before any planting takes place.
Okay, was this the same landscape contractor that decided that he could just do this without permission?
I believe this is a new landscape contractor.
A new landscape contractor, and to the town of Falmouth.
To the town of Falmouth, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Yeah, somebody ought to have a chat with him.
Bernie,
Okay, so
we'll do a pre-construction. We'll talk about that in deliberations. We'll do a pre-construction.
so I've said my piece. Is there any further comments So are we at a point where we can entertain a motion to close this? Or do we need to continue it?
No, we can close it, Courtney.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
do I have a
Driscoll
second?
second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement, but before we do, are there any comments from the audience in the chat function?
Nothing in the public chat function for this project, Courtney.
And is there anyone who wishes to speak to this?
Don't believe so, Courtney.
Okay, then we have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Ron?
Driscoll eye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
Motion carried. Next item. Sarek Reber, the Denekla Reber Family Trust, 13 Cricket Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, conduct invasive species removal and restoration, and install mitigation plantings. Jennifer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tim Santos is still with us this evening to present this project, and he is joined by Teresa Sprague of Blue Flex Design.
Okay. All right, Tim, now I understand why you were complimentary. Go ahead.
Can you also promote Jenny from Blue Flex too,
Oh,
please?
got it. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Not a
Hi,
problem.
Teresa.
I don't see Jenny in here. Jenny, can you raise your hand if you're here? Got it,
She-
Blue Flex Design. Now I see you. Thank you.
Okay. So go ahead, Tim, you're on.
We're waiting
Again,
for Jenny.
record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors representing the applicant. I'm going to do a quick overview of the existing project, proposed conditions, and then I'll turn it over to Teresa and Jenny so they can talk about the restoration and planting design. With your permission, I will share my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right. So the project is located at 13 Cricket Lane. It's at the end of the road. If you go to the very end, it's I'm going to call it the house that's being held up by bamboo. The house was originally constructed back in the 20s. Property's currently developed with an existing single-family home, shed, currently serviced by town water, as well as a cesspool to the west of the existing home in this area here. The resource area is on or within 100 feet of the property are a bordering vegetated wetland to the south of the house. There's a coastal bank that runs adjacent to the wetland, and the entire property is located in land subject to coastal storm flowage. So we're here tonight looking for your permission to tear down the existing home, construct a new home shown on the plan. It's more or less within the same footprint of the existing house with some expansions to the south and I'll call it to the west. We're proposing to upgrade septic from a cesspool to a Title V compliant system that encompasses a nitro denitrification system. The system will also be pressure dosed, and that is going before the Board of Health on the 16th. We are proposing to remove the existing shed to the south of the home, and then we'll be constructing a patio to the rear of the home as well. All roof runoff will go to dry wells. I have provided mitigation calculation exhibits that show the increase within the A zone, slight decrease within the B zone, and we are proposing a 3-to-1 increase for mitigation plantings in this hatched area here, as well as some restoration, invasive removal, restoration plantings that Teresa and Jenny will talk about shortly. Staff did issue a comment letter, and we will be meeting with staff on Monday to do a site walk to review the site, because if you've been to it, it's very overgrown with invasives and bamboo. So it's need to make sure everybody's on the same page as what was previously developed on landscaped areas and what was native. One of the main concerns on the staff report was there is a small area to the southeast of the house in this corner right here that crosses over the 50-foot buffer to the BBW. So we are encroaching into that 50-foot buffer by 3 feet. That small triangle is 10 square feet. And we're hoping the board can make a finding that the overall improvement of this site would allow that expansion into that zone. And Teresa will talk about that a little more. As far as the patio being constructed within the A, this is an area that formerly was lawn. There's an existing shed that's approximately 12 feet off of the bank and 19 feet off of the BBW. We're actually taking the patio, moving it further away so that it's 25 feet off of the bank and 29 feet off of the BBW. So I believe that the shed for the patio being moved further away, being mitigated for, is approvable under your current regulations. So at this time, I will turn it over to Teresa, and then we can address any concerns you might have.
Teresa, you're on.
Yes, thanks, Tim. I'm actually going to turn it to Jenny and let Jenny present, and then I'll be here to answer any questions and discuss any of the details about the invasive species management that the commission might have. Thanks.
May I have permission to share my screen? Works. Is that working for folks?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm Jenny Goldleaf with Blue Flax Design. Tim covered a lot of the detail on existing conditions, and I'll just go into a little bit more detail about the vegetation on the site. As I believe he mentioned, there's a significant amount of bamboo that was originally planted as screening vegetation by abutters primarily in this area by the eastern property line and extending around the area of the remaining structure. And that covers several thousand feet on the coastal bank in the wetland. Also in this area, there's a canopy of primarily mature Norway maples, and the understory, in addition to the bamboo, is also composed of invasive plants. Goutweed, bittersweet, honeysuckle, Japanese knotweed, English ivy, vinca, black locust, garlic mustard, border privet, and native but aggressive raspberry. It's pretty densely covered throughout this entire area. The only native plants that we observed were limited to white spruce, a willow, and some sensitive fern, marsh marigold, and jewelweed in the wetland. We spotted a red maple that was off the property in the wetland as well, but that was it for natives. So as far as the goals and outcomes on this project, we are proposing mitigation, invasive species management, and restoration, and hope to create a significant improvement within the buffer zone on the coastal bank and the wetland. The first goal is, of course, mitigating for the increase in impervious surface from the proposed home renovation for that additional 649 square feet. The mitigation area that Tim pointed out is along this coastal bank. I'm showing it in an olive green, and that's 1,970 square feet that will be restored with native trees and woody shrubs that are intended to naturalize. The plant list at this point is 7 native trees consisting of a white oak, red maple, tupelo, and serviceberry. And this plan is showing 81 shrubs consisting of inkberry, winterberry, red, and silky dogwood, summersweet, meadowsweet, viburnum, and lowbush blueberry. We did receive the staff comments requesting that we increase the density to 137 shrubs, and we can definitely accommodate that. I do want to point out that there's also a mow strip, a 5-foot wide mow strip indicated to the south of this mitigation area. And that is intended to prevent or reduce invasive pressure from this additional area that's the wetland that's also composed primarily of invasive plants. We've discussed removal with the homeowner who's planning to approach this in phases. And hopefully this whole area will be managed in a later phase. But for now, we are requesting this mow strip that it might be permitted as kind of an ongoing as we handle the initial mitigation phase. And the other staff comment that I want to mention is that the current limit of work is showing on the edge of the mitigation area, and the mow strip is outside of that. So we can, it's something that we can discuss as to moving it outside the mow area if the commission is comfortable with that. The second goal outside of mitigation is managing the invasive vegetation and restoring the coastal bank and vegetative buffer. This plan is showing 1,333 square feet of restoration area in this paler green to the north of the mitigation area. Similarly, we're proposing to replant that with a native naturalized plant community with a similar plant list that's broken out in the planting schedule below. I will note that there are 4 Norway maples that are proposed to be removed, and we are proposing to replace them 2-to-1 with those 8 native trees between the mitigation and restoration areas. Outside of the restoration area, there's the rest of the invasive management area. We are proposing shallow rooted grasses over the septic field adjacent to the restoration area, covering 1,326 square feet. A clover fescue low mow lawn that's surrounding the house patio living area. And then the remaining planting areas are native foundation and border plantings that total 534 square feet, which are almost entirely composed of native shrubs, grasses, and perennials as well. And this restoration area would also be seeded with native grasses and wildflowers. I think the only other staff note I wanted to address is that we are showing a rhizome barrier along this eastern property line. It's the neighbors also have bamboo on their property, and I believe the homeowner has discussed with them that they're willing to remove that as well, but that would be a separate process. And without having an understanding of the timeline there, we're proposing this rhizome barrier along the property line. And we're also planning to show that as extending along this the existing stone wall to the south, because that's the property line and won't have the mow strip to the south of the mitigation area. So all told, the restoration and mitigation areas combined are intended to create a 3,000 square foot plus unfragmented vegetative buffer strip on the top of the coastal bank and the edge of the wetland. Managing these invasive species is intended to reduce their competition with native habitat and increase the value of cover, forage, and breeding habitat within these connected wetlands, which I should mention, the wetlands that's identified on the kind of southern part of this property do connect to a larger shrub swamp wetland to the southeast, and also through that system flow out to Eel Pond and Great Harbor. So we are intending to create better connectivity, better wildlife habitat, and improved water management in that whole system. And as Tim mentioned, there's a on-site follow-up scheduled for Monday that we're looking forward to reviewing the site with you. And this evening, we're looking forward to any additional feedback and questions that you have for us. Teresa, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add.
No, I think Jenny, you did a great job, and I'll just be here to answer any questions that may arise about the actual invasive species management or anything else. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Jen, do you have any comments?
Jenny, can you stop sharing, please?
Sure thing.
Thank you. Tim, can you share again, please? So Tim, you stated there was only 10 square feet of the house in Zone A to the wetlands?
This,
What about the Zone A to the coastal bank?
it's no closer. The closest point from the house to the coastal bank is 18 feet right here. And
Okay.
we're actually sliding it, I guess you would say, to the east. So we're going to be, the closest point will be 20 feet. So we actually slid it slightly away.
Okay, so you're not moving closer in the Zone A to the coastal bank? except with the patio.
The patio is a new, I'm gonna call it an accessory structure, hardscape. And it's no closer than the accessory shed to the
That's
bank.
not what our regulations say, Tim. It says it can be, nothing shall be closer than the present primary structure. So the corner of your house is moving closer and the patio is moving closer.
Well,
So that doesn't meet the
agree
regs.
with you that the house is moving closer, but the patio and the shed to me are the same thing. It's an accessory structure. You can never build over the patio with a house.
Well, that's
Oh,
not the way we have.
Rebuild the shed 19 feet away, 12 feet away from the bank, but I can't build a patio 19 feet away.
We're discussing that right now, Tim, and you know that. But right now, our regulations say that an accessory structure cannot move any closer than the existing primary structure. We'll be working through this, but this is a real clear example of why I am very nervous about allowing patios closer than the present primary structure. You're almost right on top of the wetland. So I'm going to say to the board, I recommend at the very least not allowing the patio because it clearly does not meet your current regulations. If the board changes the regulations within the next 6 months, you can amend the order to put a patio. But right now, unfortunately, the regulations don't allow it. And we've been very clear in our past rulings about not allowing patios to move closer. We've had people angle their patios, remove the patios, and anything like that. I understand the argument, Tim. Unfortunately, that's not the way the board has been interpreting their regulation for the past several years. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay,
And
if the shed wasn't there, I would agree with you, but the shed's there, so that's where I just have a different opinion, so.
Yep, I get it. I understand, and I'm just respectfully disagreeing with it. That's all.
That's fine, and I know we already need continuance anyway, so we'll discuss that.
Yeah.
So,
That's fine. Can you stop sharing, Tim?
Sure.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify where that the coastal bank went. And barrier. And you're going to revise your plan, Jenny, to add those additional shrubs that we were looking for?
Yes, we're prepared to do that.
Thank you. That's all I have for right now.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
listen,
Just a comment here that when you guys are working on the vine removal for some of those native trees, if the trees don't survive, rather than just replacing with shrubs, if you guys could just consult with staff so we can see if we could fit another tree somewhere before going right to shrubs. And then, yes, we did recommend that the limit of work be relocated to include the maintenance path, since technically that's part of the work. I don't think anyone has a problem with the maintenance path, just making it clear that you'll be doing something in that area. That's all for now. Thank you.
okay. So, all right, now we'll go to commission comments. Kevin? Did I catch you?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about some of these things. So will this be continued or
Yes.
is this? Okay.
No, this is going to be continued, Kevin. We're actually have a scheduled meeting with Blue Flax and Merrill on Monday.
Thank you.
Do you have any specific concerns, Kevin, that you?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's see, Maury.
The only question I had was that, I mean, I have a couple, but when I see this 1,970 square feet of mitigation seeded with septic safe seed mix, there is no septic on that area. The septic is another area, which is 1,326 square feet for septic safe grass and wildflower mix. So is there a reason why you're using, I mean, I don't have any problem with the seed mix. It's just there is no septic where you're saying you're using it.
Yeah, I can respond to that. So the seed mix that we're indicating was put together with the septic area in mind. It's also not super dissimilar from other seed mixes that we would use for restoration plantings. So just the idea would be that it's the same mix that's extended throughout the entire invasive management area. And it
Okay, so you're
happens to be
basically using
appropriate
it
for the
as a-
septic.
Okay, and so you're basically using it as a fill-in for the,
A ground cover.
okay,
Sure,
ground
ground
cover.
cover, yeah.
Okay, that's all, because there was just no septic there, so I didn't understand why you were using septic plantings. So, okay. And the rest will be hashed out at the onsite. And the 42 low bush blueberry, I'm glad that you're increasing the woody indigenous, because low bush blueberry are basically a ground cover as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mari. Betsy,
So I think you've already said this, but I'm just going to confirm. You mentioned that the native trees, that there weren't that many, but the ones you did see, you're going to leave there. You're going to try to encourage them to be healthy again.
Yes, the only trees that we're proposing to remove are the invasive Norway maples.
Okay. It was this was one of the most overgrown sites I've ever seen. So
It's really
good
something.
luck for all of you who are going out for your site visit.
yeah,
I mean, I have to admit, I peered into it from the road. I didn't try to see where Tim had laid out the house. That's all, Courtney.
thank you. Steve,
I have no additional questions or comments. Thank you.
Ron,
Yeah, I had enough courage to follow the Blue Fax engineer around the house. It was pretty scary. That's a site that really needs to be upgraded, and I wish him good luck on the project. It's definitely going to be improved. That's all. Thanks.
okay, thanks. And my only comments are that this is a tough site to deal with, and there are a lot of trade-offs, and I think you can make this into a approvable project with working together with staff. But there may be some trade-offs here, and the patio maybe have to disappear or be somewhat modified. There's possibilities of, when I look at it, you've got that one little corner of 3 feet that is a sort of a little nibble out of what you'd love to do from a design, but maybe there's a possibility that the house can be slid to the north or whatever direction it is, enough to get it out of that. I mean, there are all kinds of things that you can do to make this approvable. You're close, but it's sort of a almost, but not quite, kind of the story of the Patriots this season. Okay, any other questions or comments from the commission? Jen, do we have anybody in the chat room that wants to say anything?
Doesn't look like there's anybody in the public chat that wants to say anything about this particular project, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and no one wants to speak. So are there any other comments? Then we need a motion, I believe, to continue. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and do you have a suggested date?
Tim, which date would you like?
Can we do the 8th? Because I'm going to be filing a few things for the 8th.
Yeah, we can do the 8th.
At the request of the applicant.
I think it's either next week or the 8th, and obviously there's not enough time for next week because I can't get a revised plan in time. So that's
Okay,
why.
so 8th it is.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to January 8th.
Okay, do we have a second?
Carlo Hawk, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue the hearing until the 8th of January, 2025. Are there any further comments, questions, or anything from anybody? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk dies.
Ron,
July.
and Steve.
Matt and I.
The motion is carried unanimously. We'll move on. Next up, is,
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you. We'll see
you.
you 3 on Monday.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too.
okay, next up, Clayton Jones, 100 Garnet Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to construct a deck, install a pool with a patio, instruct a front entry and shed, reconfigure the front walk and parking area, construct a new set of access stairs, and install mitigation plantings.
Courtney, give
Yes.
me 1 second, please. I have to
I will
move
give you
people
more.
around.
As much time as you would like.
Thank you. I just need to move a couple of people around. That's all. Where is Blue Flag?
I see, okay, we have Mike.
Yeah,
and-
everybody's just jumping around right now, so it's hard for me to grab the person I need.
Oh, I see
Okay.
Mike here.
Yep. I just want to make sure I didn't lose anybody.
Um,
Oh, Angela's, am I promoting Angela up as well? Yes, I am. Sorry, Angela. I didn't mean to leave you out.
when you have them all up, yep,
I do. 1, 2.
Angela,
3,
yep, there we go.
6. Got it. Yep. So I have promoted Mike Borselli from Falmouth Engineering and Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management to present their project.
Go ahead, you're on target, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I'm accompanied by Angela Tanner of Crawford Land Management. We represent the applicant, Clayton Jones. I'm going to share my screen and show you some plans and aerial photos for references. I'm showing you the property at 100 Garnett Ave. It's has driveway access off of Garnett Ave, and there's a circular driveway and house surrounded by landscape and lawn areas, and then fairly heavily wooded buffered areas in and around the peninsula of this land. This lot is one of the last lots in Falmouth. The Bourne town line is just north of here. So Mr. Jones has the good fortune of being before the Falmouth Conservation Commission instead of the Bourne Conservation Commission. And the Squatigue, the river that leads to Squatigue Harbor is here, and off to the west is Megansett Harbor, the public landing and dock here. You recently issued an order of conditions for a dock reconstruction just nearby to Mr. Jones's property. Now I will share plans. I'm sharing with you a plan of existing conditions. You can see the house at the center of the lot. The lot contains 2.7 acres of land, the driveway leading off of Garnett. Megansett Harbor off to the west. The wetland resources of note include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There is a salt marsh along the toe of the non-eroding coastal bank. There's a coastal bank, the top of which is delineated on the plan, and there's land subject to coastal storm flow, which runs along the coastal bank. The proposed activities and house and lawn and landscape areas are all outside of land subject to coastal storm flowage. There are plans to do modifications to the house that I will now share with you on the proposed plan. The proposed changes that are shown on this plan include a modification and expansion of the existing deck. If you look closely, you can see in red the outline of the existing deck in the background. That is proposed to be expanded and enlarged, and it's designed in a way that while it gets larger, it does not go closer to any wetland resources than the closest point of the existing primary structure. So it meets your standard for under regulation FWR 10.18. There's a small 9 by 16 pool and patio proposed as well, just off of the deck. Again, these are in an area where they do not move closer than the closest part of the present primary structure. Some of these improvements are in a no disturbance zone A lawn area. Some are in an outer buffer zone B lawn area. And we're proposing to mitigate for any expansions. In addition to these improvements, there's a proposed new entry on the other side of the house. Modifications to the walkways that lead to the entries. And a proposed shed is shown just off the side of the existing house, adjacent to the existing driveway. The shed is effectively outside the outer buffer zone B, except for one little sliver that I'm highlighting here in this little corner. Part of the project, in an effort to reduce overall impervious surfaces, calls for the removal of a paved driveway that is in close proximity to the top of the coastal bank. So we're proposing to remove a significant area of paved driveway that is the circular driveway and replace it with grass for some of it. And the balance of it that I'm showing with this green crosshatched area will be grass, but it'll be reinforced grass so that it can be parked on. We are considering that to be pervious surface. In addition to those improvements, the applicant is requesting permission to gain access over the coastal bank with a timber stairway, typical to what you've seen on other properties. We are showing details of that on the upper corner of the plan. You can see a profile. There's a landing at the top, and there's a couple of landings in intermediate landings between some sets of stairs. The upright posts will be 4x4 posts. Because of the requirements for mitigation, my plan shows mitigation areas. The plan prepared by Angela of Crawford Land Management shows all the details and specifications for mitigation, planting, and other landscape improvements that are part of the overall plan. We will be requesting a continuance to this because we received a staff report last Wednesday afternoon, the day before the long holiday weekend, and it was not possible to meet with staff on either last Thursday or Friday to go over things. We met with staff Monday morning and went through the staff report, and the staff report concluded that there were some revisions that we are going to have to consider and make to the plan to address some of their concerns. The primary one of which is that there was a plan discovered in the file from 2001 that showed an edge of clearing or the edge of natural vegetation in a place that is not currently vegetated. So it appears that the previous property owner, we believe sometime between 2001 and 2005, did some unauthorized alterations of the buffer. We went through this with your staff on Monday morning, and we came up with a game plan to make modifications to the plan to address the altered buffer areas. those plans are in the works, and it didn't make sense to describe those until they were finalized. But we're proceeding with a strategy that we came up with Jennifer and Alyssa in the office on Monday, so that some of the mitigation areas that we're proposing that you see on my plan and are required because of the increases of impervious surface are in areas that will not be mitigation because they will have to be restoration. So you're going to see new plans in a subsequent meeting that show areas down on this southwest side of the property that are restored with native vegetation instead of mitigated with native vegetation. And the mitigation planting is going to be shown in different locations that still meet your requirements and in your regulations for proper location of the mitigation, but things are going to be shifted around, I guess is the simple way of saying it. And there simply wasn't enough time to get plans to you. So we thought we've met with your staff on a few occasions. Jen and I initially met because there was some areas that were suspect that we looked at aerial photos, and we had come up with a game plan prior to filing. But then when staff dug deep into an archive, they came up with this plan from 2001 that sort of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench in our plan. So we're reacting to that as quickly as we can, and we're going to go through that and with your staff, and we're going to submit revised plans. But we wanted to get your feedback on the project as a whole, so that hopefully if there's other comments, we can address those and continue this just to one additional hearing. So I will be asking for a continuance to December 18th. We can get you revised plans by December 11th. Angela's here because she did prepare the landscape plan that's going to change considerably. So we didn't want to go through all the minutia of that plan tonight, only to have it be different. But we are both here to answer questions and get any other feedback you might have about our project as a whole. And with that, I'll stop sharing, and we're both here for questions.
Okay, Jennifer, you're on.
Don't have much to add, Courtney. The plan is going to change, so I'll hold any comments until after I see Mike's and Angela's revised plans. But we did meet with them. Like Mike said, we came up with, I guess, a strategy on how this project could move forward. So we're going to be looking at that.
So my only question here is the plan for the existing structure as you showed it tonight, Mike.
Mhm.
There's no contemplation that that's going to be modified, or it may be.
None of the hardscape or improvement elements on the project are going to change. We have sufficient room to mitigate for those in other locations other than the restoration areas. So the plan is to basically juggle things around a bit and then add restoration planting as well as the mitigation planting.
Okay, so that's my only question. Teresa, I'm sorry, Alyssa, I didn't mean to not
That's okay.
get your
I have no
comment.
comments.
You have no comments? All right, well
No.
then I've said my piece. Ron.
No, I'm all set. Thanks. Good luck with the changes. Great
Okay,
piece of-
Kevin.
Thank you.
The same.
Kevin,
No comments. Thank you.
Steve,
The same.
what's that? You're all set?
No
Maury?
comment. No
Okay.
comment.
I'll wait till the next revision.
And Betsy? You have any
I'm
comments?
set, thanks. I enjoyed visiting the site.
Okay,
Yeah.
Quite a
Me
nice
too.
view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got that. Do we have any comments in the chat room or people who want to speak, Jen?
Nothing in the public chat, it seems, for this project, Mr. Chairman. Mike, you said the 18th?
Yes.
So you're seeking, okay. So we are going to be looking for a motion to continue this till January the 18th,
December
2025.
18th.
Wait a
Right.
second, we have to,
December 18th.
18th.
I'm sorry, December 18th?
Yes.
December 18th.
December
Dan, does that
18th,
work?
I'm sorry.
Jen, does that work?
It does work.
I'll make a motion to continue this hearing till December 18th.
Driscoll second.
Gladfelter.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this to December 18th. Do we have any other comments or questions before I call for the vote?
No. Oh, excuse me.
No,
thank you.
nothing? Are you all set, Ron? Yeah,
I'm off.
okay.
Steve,
All right, here goes, we're calling for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Court is aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury, Maury,
Carlo Hawkseye.
Ron,
Driscoll aye.
and Steve.
Pat and I.
All right, the vote is affirmative. We continue this to the 18th of December. Next up,
Thank you.
and thank you for your presentation, Mike. Okay, so next is 99 Meadow Neck LLC, 99 Meadow Neck Road, Falmouth, for permission to raise RAZE and an existing single-family dwelling to construct a new single-family dwelling with attached garage and deck, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, and install dry wells and mitigation plantings. Jen,
yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Borselli is still with us from Falmouth Engineering to present 99 Meadow Neck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Again, for the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, representing the applicant. I will share my screen and go through my plan. The subject property is at number 99 Meadow Neck Road. There is water frontage on the location of where the Municus River discharges into the Bay area, and the lot has frontage on that waterfront. The wetland resources of note include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There is a salt marsh at the toe of a non-eroding coastal bank. The top of the coastal bank is shown and labeled on the plan. In addition, the area where the coastal bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage coexist is also an area of critical environmental concern. All of the associated no disturbance zone A's and outer buffer zone B's from the wetland resources are also indicated on the plan. In this case, the most restrictive no disturbance zone A is the 50-foot no disturbance zone A from the top of the coastal bank. And that's shown on the plan. I have, the plan package includes a plan of existing conditions that I'm gonna go back to just briefly. It shows an existing house and deck. You can see the no disturbance zone A runs from the coastal bank, runs through the existing deck. And then the outer buffer zone B is beyond that on the other side of the house. The proposed plan is to raise and reconstruct the existing house and pull it back away from the wetland resources. For reference, in red is the edge of the existing structure, so you can see that it was moved back. The house got larger in some ways and reconfigured and rotated to take a better advantage of views, but it also slid back. And as part of the plan preparation and preparation of the applications, we did an analysis of the impervious surfaces as we do. And I submitted to your file exhibits that show a portion of the existing deck is in the no disturbance zone A, and then other impervious surfaces such as the house and the balance of the deck are in the outer buffer zone B. We also did the same analysis for the proposed condition, and you can see that there's no more shaded blue areas because we pulled completely out of the no disturbance zone A when we moved the house back. But there is still an increase, even though there was a decrease in B, there's still an overall increase that we had to mitigate for, which totals 624 square feet of mitigation planting. And the plan before you shows that in a green shaded area on this plan for reference. And here's that same green shaded area relative to the top of the coastal bank. It supplements and enhances the existing buffer. And it runs along the front face of where the existing house deck is. There are 2 trees that are shown in the outer buffer zone B that I'm going to try to zoom in for you. They have big X's through them, a 9-inch oak and a 13-inch oak. We're mitigating for that tree removal because it just wasn't practical to have those right next to the house like that. So we have a requirement for 1 tree for the mitigation planting. So we're providing a total of 4 new eastern red cedar, an area that's already disturbed. If you look on the plan, you'll see a chain link fence. This is a dog run that we discovered was built without permission. Shocking. By a previous owner. So your staff report points that out and suggests that we show the in more specifics the edge of the vegetation on the outside of that chain link fence. So we're going to give you a revised plan that shows that chain link fence is all proposed to be removed. That area is no longer going to be used for that purpose. Another comment by your staff suggested that because there's no evidence of permission for that we enhance the buffer to the wetland by providing additional planting in the no disturbance zone A portion that was altered without permission. So we're going to give you a revised plan with additional planting in that area. And we're going to shift those cedar trees out of where we want to put the shrub buffer. There were a couple of other minor comments in the staff report that we are happy to address. I had put a note on the plan about the mitigation planting and a note that said to maintain to no less than 5 feet height. And your staff didn't like that note. So I'm going to take that note off because they would prefer that we come back for vista pruning and not have the note on the plan. So we're certainly willing to do that. And I labeled some places brush instead of a better term, which is woodland. So we're going to make that plan revision or that labeling revision. And I think that sums it up. So I had spoken to your staff as recently as this afternoon. I'm hoping because of I think minor modifications, unless you have other issues or concerns when you're making your comments. If these are, I'm hoping these are minor enough that you could close and I could get your revised plan before you issue the order of conditions. Just because of the fact that you have 2 weeks that you're not meeting because of the holidays. And it would be appreciative if you could do that. But I stand ready to continue if necessary, and I'm now ready to answer your questions.
Okay, Jen, do you have some comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any comments. We spoke to Mike, he's gonna make the plan revisions for us, and I'm fine with closing the hearing and conditioning a revised plan.
Okay, Lisa?
No comments, thank you.
Okay, I'll take comments from the commission. Betsy?
I also have no comments.
Ron?
Yeah, it's a beautiful site, Mike. And just one question, any chance of moving it further out? I mean, yeah, I know you have to consider the view and the wetlands and the house but it's so far back off the street. Could you just move it totally out of the buffer?
I will have a tough time convincing my client to do that. I had a tough time convincing him to pull it back as much as I did. I don't really think we could consider that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
No comments. No comments.
Kevin?
It was worth a shot, though. No further comments. Thank you.
Maury?
I was glad to see, Mike, that you put on there, anticipating future D-night issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's something we've been doing. I didn't speak too much of the septic because it was outside of jurisdiction, but yeah, we've been doing that on all plans now.
Yep, thank you. No comments.
Okay, and Steve, do you have anything?
Thank you. I just wanted to say we've gone from Bourne to Mashpee in one meeting.
Almost.
Almost.
Okay, and I don't have anything to add. I'm fine with a revised plan when and that'll be submitted when?
I expect to submit it sometime next week, which would be well before you'd be issuing your order of conditions.
We're gonna be voting on it. We're meeting next week. Is that correct or?
Yeah, Courtney, we'll get the plan. Don't worry.
Okay,
We know
so,
where Mike's office is.
yeah, all right. So I have no other questions. And are there any comments in the, any comments in the chat room?
Does not appear to be any public comments on this project.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Ron?
Second.
Ron is seconding?
Wasn't there a letter from an abutter? Is this the project?
Yes, there was. They wanted screening
Right.
between this project and their house.
Are they there in the chat room?
No, Courtney, we've got nobody. The only person that has their hand raised is for a different project.
Okay.
Maybe, Jen, you could forward that to Mike and Mike could give it to his client. I
Yep.
mean, it's between the neighbors.
Okay,
Right.
that's fine.
Okay, Driscoll second then.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to continue this until the date. What's the date? The 11th?
No,
So we're
No,
closing
Courtney,
it.
we're
Courtney.
closing it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're closing. Okay, the motion is to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Ron?
Driscoll aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
The motion carries. Okay. I mean,
Thank you
hearing is
very-
closed. We move on to the next one,
Thank
which
you.
has been continued. That's Margaret Strakosch, trustee, 158 Westwood Road. That's been continued until the 11th. Then the next one up is Barrett, Richard Barrett, trustee, 3 Childs River Road. That's continued to the 18th. And then 9 Childs River Road.
You have to
is
vote those.
permission to-
Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney, you didn't officially vote the 2 Child River ones
Oh,
yet, so you
okay.
need to open those and we need to vote them.
Strakosch, I thought we continued.
We did. I'm talking about Barrett and 9 Childs River.
Okay, we
LLC.
didn't do that. Well, then I'll open the hearing. Thank you.
What?
I stand corrected.
I got
Richard
you,
C.
Courtney.
Barrett, trustee, Richard C. Barrett, revocable trust, 3 Childs River Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Permission to install a vinyl sheet piling bulkhead behind a failing timber retaining wall, Jim.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until December 18th, and we
Okay,
can handle it.
all right.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion.
Second,
And we have a motion
Gladfelter.
and a second to continue this. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Jamie, I'm sorry, Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Ron,
Aye.
Steve.
Brad and I.
Motion carried, continued. Next, 9 Childs River LLC. 9 Child River Road, East Falmouth, permission to install a vinyl sheet piling bulkhead behind a failing timber retaining wall. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until December 18th.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this to the 18th. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Ron,
Aye.
and Steve.
Brad and I.
Motion carried, it's continued to the 18th. Next, Mary May Carroll, trustee, 115 Childs River Road, permission to license, maintain, and construct an extension on an existing licensed walkway and relocate one existing dolphin pile. Jen,
We already continued this to December 11th, Courtney.
okay, and Cindy Coates, did we do that one too?
We continued that until December 18th.
All right, then we're on to Paul Broderick, 51 Nemansett Road, Falmouth, Mass. Permission to raise RAZ, a single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with decks, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, and conduct invasive species removal and restoration. And I believe this has not been opened before. So the quorum is all of us? Am I correct?
Correct. Yes.
Oh, okay,
And I have promoted Mark Dibb of Cape and Islands Engineering up to present his project, Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design, and Teresa, I thought I grabbed Jenny, hang on. Oh, yep, and Jenny from Blue Flax Design.
okay.
Anybody
I
else,
guess-
Mark?
So Mark, I guess you're the lead on this, right?
Yes.
You're on.
Yes, Jen, I think
Okay.
that's all set. Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering on behalf of the applicant for 51 Nemasket Road, Paul J. Broderick. We're here tonight for a notice of intent to raise and replace the existing dwelling at the site. With your permission, I'll share my screen. So the property tonight is an existing dwelling at 51 Nemasket Road. To the east is Nemasket Road. To the south, it's kind of a dead end also of Nemasket Road. And to the west is Buzzards Bay. There's a beach area off the screen, pretty far away from the site. The resource areas affecting the site are a coastal dune that comes up to pretty close to the existing stone wall on the just off the property. Also wraps around towards the end of that in the Masket Road. And then the associated A zone and B buffer zone with that coastal dune. And then the entire site is also within, it's partially within the velocity elevation 18 zone, as well as an AE 15 zone over on this side of the project. So tonight we're proposing to demolish the existing house and propose a new house that is basically aligned. The westerly edge of the proposed deck is going to be aligned with the existing house. The house itself will be set back some, but so on the westerly face it's aligned, and the southerly face it's also aligned essentially. And then the new house will be built on piles to velocity zone standards. The first floor will be at elevation 22, so that the lowest horizontal members will be more than 2 feet above the base flood velocity zone elevation of 18. There will be an existing gravel driveway that will support some under the structure parking in this area, as well as another kind of drop off paved parking area for a front entrance. There is a new septic system being installed that will include which would actually be voluntary, but will include an IA component. So an innovative alternative nitrogen reducing system will be installed. It is not an increase in flow for the property. And roof drains will be provided. We've shown a limited work associated with the project. There is an existing flagstone walk that is proposed to be removed. There is a portion that goes off the Locust property onto a Nemasket Road homeowners trust property. We've been seeking permission to remove that section of walkway. We do not specifically have that yet, so we would potentially request a condition that cannot be removed until permission is provided to staff or to the department. So this little section here, this last section, it would look kind of odd to remove the portion on our site and just leave this last section, but we also understand we do need permission and would provide that before any of that work would take place. And then lastly, there's a planting plan that I will let Blue Flax Design present. I'm going to stop sharing and they can hopefully share.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Teresa Sprague. I'm introducing Caitlin Camilleri, who's going to be proposing this for you tonight. Sorry, thanks.
Caitlin, you did a switcheroo on me.
I did. Jenny is here, so we're having a conservation hearing party. So
Okay.
great. Caitlin Camilleri with Blue Flax Design, and I will share my screen. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, let me get bigger. All right. Oh,
Excuse me, can you amplify that, the map there, rather than just yeah, better.
Perfect.
Good.
There you go.
yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, how's that? Good. Okay. All right. So our plan proposes invasive species management and restoration in approximately 500 square feet within the buffer zones to the coastal dune, and an additional 1,200 square feet of invasive species removal and native plant restoration is proposed outside the buffer zone within the flood zone. And the invasive species on site to be removed include one large Norway maple at this southeast portion of the property,
black swallowwort, border privet, bittersweet, English ivy, porcelainberry, shrub honeysuckle, and multiflora rose are also prevalent on this site, specifically just around the perimeter of the site on the north, east, and south portions of the property. We're proposing to restore these areas with 6 native trees, including eastern red cedar, white oak, and tupelo, 42 native shrubs, including bayberry, winterberry, and viburnum, and 16 native little blue stem grasses. And we're also going to remove the existing Cape Cod lawn from the kind of front lawn area and restore it with a native shade-tolerant herbaceous ground cover mix. And based on your staff notes from November 5th, we've increased the number of shrubs within the A and B zones, and we'll plant them more closely together on the north, south, and east sides as well. And we've also moved a proposed tupelo that was in the northeast corner of the property into the A zone down here in the southeast portion of the property as well. And we also have located the existing trees on the northern portion of the property, and we observed 4 eastern red cedars, 1 black cherry, and 1 white oak tree. And they were not on the plan originally. We apologize for that. There is 1 eastern red cedar within the limit of work that will have to be removed for house construction. And for the other remaining native trees in this area, we'll remove the invasive vines and do some regenerative pruning. And hopefully they will be able to kind of bounce back, and we'll keep them in their place there. And if for some reason we return to the site after treating invasive species and doing this regenerative pruning, and we determine that their survivability is not good, we will meet with staff on site to discuss removing them and replace them with other native trees. And I think that is it from me right now. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jen, do you have any comments on this? Or is there anybody else that needs to present?
Can you stop sharing, please? Thank you. You might have to share again if the board wants to see it. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman. Just Mark, if you don't have the existing trees on your plan, we need you to show them on your plan for us, but we can condition that.
Yeah, I believe they were added on to the 12/3/24 plan, but we'll just make sure it's.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the 11/25 plan, but I'll grab that one. Thank you.
Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
Just a note, I do believe we received that plan and it's saved
Okay,
to the
great.
file.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Okay.
Nothing to add. Thanks.
I will turn to commissioner comments. Ron.
Yeah, can I have some of the wiffle balls that are just behind the stone wall? About a dozen of them right off the stone wall. So there must be some good family games there. The lawn should be firm to put up with all that activity. That's all I have. Thank you.
Betsy.
No comments, thanks.
Maury.
The only question I had, maybe for the Blue Flax gang is, some of the cedars are only, I don't know, I think, let me scale it again, but I think they're pretty close, and we're like, they're only 8 feet off the walkway and 10 feet off the center of the tree is only 10 feet off the center of the house. And I'm just wondering if, all the plantings all seem to be boxed in right around the building and not so much toward, I know they're taking out, invasives, but I'm just wondering, in the future when they grow to their size, the ones along the northern property line are only, if you took the center of them, again, they're only like 8 feet off the house. So I just want to make sure that they're, not going to be too tight or overgrowing into the neighbor's property or whatever. But other than that, that was my only concern. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen.
I don't see anything being planted closer to the resource, to be honest.
Okay. Steve
I have nothing to add. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
and Kevin, last but not least.
Well, last has nothing else to add. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I have nothing to add. So I will find out, first of all, do we have any people in the chat function that
Yes,
want to
there is
chat?
one person that has been patiently waiting. I am going to promote a Jim Paquette up to ask his question.
Okay. Jim, if you can show your video and turn on your sound, we'll be in business.
Very good. How's that?
It's
Perfect.
lovely.
Thank you for letting me speak. I really appreciate it. My name is Jim Paquette, as you know. I reside directly across the street from 51 Nemasket. My wife and I, we support what Paul and Sue are doing. It's going to be a nice, beautiful home, great addition to the neighborhood. But, you know, we understand that the house now has to be built up, and that's going to, you know, lessen our view of the water quite drastically. And we understand that, and that, you know, we'd like to see if we can work with the commission and Blue Flax to see if we can come up with a plan that does not hinder our view as much as it could possibly be. We're concerned about property value. Our views from the second floor, once the house is raised, is going to be minimal compared to what we have now, especially on our second floor from our master bedroom and our office. And, you know, the structure, from what I gather, is going to be maybe 10 to 12 feet higher. The overall height is going to be close to 35 feet. The issue that's the main problem for us is where the width of the property is basically 12 feet wider, more towards the back property line, which would be their backyard, where you guys are been talking about the trees that you just mentioned. There are several trees that have been an eyesore, and most of them are dead, covered with vines. I know they're going to try and restore them. Like I said, we'd love to work with you guys and see if we can come up with a plan that removes the existing trees now so that we could put something in that does not grow as high or as wide as what is currently there now. The trees, I know the largest one in the back is coming down to make room for the house. But all the other ones, the 4 red cedar, I guess the black cherry, and the 1 oak, they are covered in vines. Some of the vines are grown into the trees, or the trees growing around them. So what I'm proposing is that we work together to try and mitigate what our views are going to be that will be taken away, and put something in place of, there's a lot of shrubs going in, like arrowwood, winterberry, northernberry. They seem to don't grow as tall. And if they're trimmed and maintained properly, they will not be an issue for us. I don't know what else we can do with removal and placing something in place that will not grow over time to block our views again. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Jim. I certainly understand your concerns, and I think our job is to deal with the wetlands and creation of adequate buffers and so forth. However, that said, I would certainly encourage you and the presenters here, Mark and Teresa and everybody else on that crew, as well as dealing directly with a homeowner, to see what you can work out, and then they can come back to conservation, to staff, and say, you know, this is what we're proposing, and is that acceptable? And I think that's kind of the way you need to work.
That would be great. I've already talked with,
You know, it's not an easy thing. I understand your situation and, you know, but we also have a responsibility for the environment, and then we have to deal with that. So it's a sort of a trade-off, and, you know.
oh, I totally understand it. I've been through it. We built new here too, so.
Oh, I know.
You
You
know,
I mean, I think back to the times when I said I should buy the neighboring lot, and then I don't have to worry about a house there. And then I look at my pocketbook and there's nothing in it, so
Yeah,
now I
yeah,
gotta deal with the situation you do. I
Yeah.
empathize. Thank you for your comments, Jim. Do we have
Thank you.
anything else in the chat function?
It doesn't appear we have anything else, Mr. Chairman.
So are we ready to close this? I believe or do we have a motion? I'm sorry. I guess I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Driscoll second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. We will be voting this next week, so you guys should talk to each other in the, you know, you shouldn't let that go.
okay, excellent.
All right, so, are we ready for the vote?
We're
Betsy?
ready, Courtney.
All right.
Gladfelter,
Betsy,
aye.
go for it. Gladfelter, aye. All right, go ahead. Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Still aye.
and Steve.
And
We've got everybody unanimous. It's a motion carried. We close the hearing. Next.
Good night,
on the
guys.
agenda.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Courtney, give
Next
me a
on the
second.
agenda is a request to amend an existing order of conditions. Dan Celine, 95 Adamansett Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend an order of conditions for Mass DEP 254689 to replace the previously permitted kayak launch with a launch port lift. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Dan Celine up. He is going to present his project. I think Dan's presenting his project.
Good evening, Dan. Go ahead. You're on deck.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Chairman Byrd and members of the commission. I'm Dan Celine. I'm here tonight representing myself and Chris Ariucci, my wife. We are the co-owners of 91, rather in this case 95 Adamansett Road. I guess I'd like to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so there's a file, on this project, would describe, 95 Adamansett Road lies between Adamansett Road and Coonamessett Pond. There is a gravel driveway that departs Adamansett Road, runs along the shoreline, and to access property known as the camp, which is 91 Adamansett Road. On January 31st, 2022, the commission issued an order of conditions for the construction of a hillside wood step system a lightweight aluminum dock and a kayak launch. The dock is 48 foot long dock. This is a close up of the plan view, and a section showing the pond profile. So the kayak launch which is the issue of this request, is an accessory feature at the end of the dock. It enables one to board and deboard a kayak directly from the dock, thereby and allowing the kayaker to remain dry under the best circumstances. But importantly, from a environmental standpoint and ecological standpoint, it moves the activity, the boarding and deboarding, off the shore to the end of the dock, and that is important because it allows the bordering vegetation along the pond edge that is to either side of the dock where it meets the land to be undisturbed. If you visited the site, you've probably noticed, or you may have noticed, that where that vegetation has been disturbed by natural processes, primarily wave action, it erodes the driveway and floods the driveway at times. So our aim is to minimize the activity along the shore and to shift that activity to the end of the dock in the form of this kayak launch. Let's see, I'm sorry, got my wheel going the wrong way here. Okay, so a kayak launch is an aluminum ramp that's connected to the dock on the landward end. It's hinged, and the dock or the launch where it meets the water floats. Okay, ideally, the distance between the dock and the water level, needs to be 12 inches in order for the ramp to have a pitch, that will enable the launch to work, properly. Which is to say that if the water level drops and the ramp steepens, it doesn't work as well. In fact, there's a highlighted message here. This is a exhibit from the dock manufacturer that says that this is ideal for controlled bodies of water with a minimal fluctuation. So that's sort of the issue that brings us here today. Since when we prepared the notice that led to the order enabling us to build the dock and the launch, we were new homeowners and new to Coonamessett Pond, and we so as a Minnesotan, land of 10,000 lakes, I thought that the lakes and ponds were static. For the most part, the water levels didn't change, too much. And I think of myself as a lake expert. So at Coonamessett Pond, we found that that's not true at all. The Coonamessett Pond water levels peak in April of each year and drop continuously, until the check dam at Coonamessett River is closed late in the year. This is, related to the management of the pond to support the herring run. From the high water elevation to its low water elevation, the pond level drops 18 to 24 inches. Where the vegetation, and we also observe that where the vegetation borders the pond, where it's eroded by wave action, the waves at periods of high water erode the driveway to the historic camp. Okay, so I took this picture today just to sort of illustrate the how dramatic, the pond level changes. The pond is at its low level now, and you can see where the lichens begin, on the rocks. There's no lichens below a certain level, all the way across. And I measured the distance between the water and the lichen line, and it is 24 inches. So the pond water level, changes dramatically and changes right through the summer. Here again, I'll just point out that the dark flat rock, that you see in the center of the picture, I know from experience, is covered with water in the spring. So the water level is that high then, and then of course it drops through the summer until fall, where it is now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what we are requesting is that the commission amend the order to allow us to use a kayak lift to support the kayak launch. Okay. So the lift is simply, a small boat lift that is also manufactured by our dock provider. And it's designed to hold the launch. Okay. So what we're looking at here is the same launch as is otherwise hinged to the dock, but in this case it rests on the lift. So what the lift would allow us to do is to very easily adjust the level, the height of the launch and, to the dropping level of the water through the season. If not, without that, our only way to do that would be to drop the entire dock, through the season, the launch being hinged to the dock. So that's kind of impractical. And so we're asking that we simply, can place the launch on this small lift. You see in the plan view, there's not a significant increase in the footprint of the launch, of the lift and launch compared to the launch alone.
Thank you.
Good. There's one more picture here. Forgive me. There we go. All right. So this is the picture of the launch resting on the lift. Yeah, I think this as the highlighted section of the exhibit reads, if your water levels fluctuate, which they do, our launch port lift raises up to 75 inches so that the water is never out of reach. So this is a feature that's going to enable us to meet our goals, which are to minimize the damage to the bordering vegetation by enabling boarding and deboarding of kayaks at the kayak launch, not the shoreline. It enables convenient adjustment of the kayak launch level by placing the launch on a small lift. The lift is supported by 4 posts on pads. The pads will rest on the hard bottom of the pond. No vegetation would be pond or aquatic vegetation is disturbed by the lift. This will minimize shoreline disturbance of shoreline vegetation and thus minimize driveway erosion. So that's the story, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Jen, do you have any comments?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Dan, can you stop sharing, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Okay. And that, okay, so Jen, you have no comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Teresa?
Alyssa.
Alyssa.
That's me.
I'm sorry, Alyssa.
No comments, thank you.
Okay, and I'll move to to commission comments. Betsy,
No comments. Thanks.
Maury,
No comments, thank you. Good presentation.
Ron,
No comments. Nice presentation.
Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Steve,
No comments, it just makes sense.
and my only comments are two. One, you know that the surface underneath the deck will support the weight of those four lifts, the four lift points.
Yeah, it's hard bottom, it's a gravel, sand, bottom. And,
Does
it's
that,
very-
does that come out in the fall? Or do you leave it in with the ice and everything else?
well, I will try to leave it in, honestly. I think that there again, if we can successfully leave it in through the season, it minimizes shoreline activity, and that's a benefit. So that has worked at the camp where we have a float, a dock that has a float, and so we haven't observed a really thick freeze for the years that we've been here.
Okay,
I'll make
All
a
right.
motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Just a second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Do we have anybody in the chat room that wants to speak or comment?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
And okay, and there's no further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks eye.
Ron,
Aye.
Steve,
Pat and I.
motion carried. It's closed and I take it under advisement. Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah,
Right,
you're
Dan.
set, Dan, thank
night,
you for
Dan.
your presentation.
Yeah, have a
Yeah.
great holiday season.
You
Thank
too,
you.
Dan.
You too.
Okay, next on the agenda is we have hearings under enforcement order. Both have been continued.
Oh,
And that
no.
brings our regular business to an end. Again, I will remind
Don't forget
us
the
and the
extension.
audience to one thing, that we do have a meeting tomorrow between 4 and 5 in the Civil Defense Room. For anyone who is interested in serving on this commission, we would love to have you join us, and we will convince you that it's the greatest things that ever happened.
Courtney, you have one more matter. You have to officially withdraw the Quistit Harbor Preservation Trust
Oh,
extension.
I'm sorry, yes, so yes, Quistit Harbor, that was a request of extending the initial order to conditions, and they have requested to withdraw. Do we need to vote on that? No.
No, but you did need to announce it.
Yeah,
So they're
and-
withdrawing because their permit is currently still valid due to the Permit Extension Act.
Right, same as the other withdrawal
Correct.
that we had. Okay,
Correct.
I'm sorry, I missed that one,
Okay.
thank you. Do we have any other business before this commission? Anybody want to bring anything up? Hope not. Okay, then I will entertain a final motion.
I make a motion to adjourn, Patton.
Okay,
Fellow Hawks second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye,
O'Brien, aye.
Fellow Hawks eye.
Still aye.
Pat and I.
I think everybody's responded. And so I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.